Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take a little trip here. First, I just need to know, does everybody know how much effort it takes to help somebody clear their debt? Now, there are some people out there, oh, that's easy. All you have to do is blah, 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 blah. They're liars. We have a situation at present where the courts are helping corporations and not helping the private citizen or the private civilian. They're letting the lawyers go in and say whatever they want to say, and they're ignoring you. So your job is to document everything, and your job is to call the court out for not being impartial. You're going to have to do that. You're going to have to make the judge look stupid. I've been doing it for years. That's been my main focus, is to make the judge look stupid, because judges are not smart. I know. Everybody wants to think that a judge is smart. A judge is not smart. They're the same as lawyers. The only thing a judge and a lawyer goes to school for is policy and procedures. Don't believe me? Okay, then go stand in a courtroom or sit in a courtroom and listen. And you'll see for yourself how dumb they are. Now, when I say dumb, I don't mean that they're stupid. I mean dumb as to reality, as to everyday life. Yeah. They experience life, but they don't experience your life. They have no idea what you're going through. They cannot put themselves in your shoes, although some of them used to be there. Some people say, well, they're good judges. No, they're not. I used to be one of those people who said there were good judges. Now, for instance, if I tell you they're good police officers, no, they're not. No, hold on. If I tell you they're good lawyers, no, there are not. If I tell you they're good doctors, that's debatable, because you can debate that. If I tell you they're good nurses, that's debatable, because you can debate that. But when it comes to doctors and lawyers and police officers and firemen, no, they're not good people. The good ones are the ones that quit because they cannot stand seeing the junk that they do on a regular basis. Police officers, because of their so-called camaraderie of wanting to protect the so-called brotherhood that doesn't exist, they have created what Tupac would say is a gang, because they protect each other's back. They call themselves family. You're not allowed to be a part of that family. You're not considered part of that family. Okay, that's what gangs do. That's why Tupac called them a gang. Go ahead. Go back and listen to him. I didn't appreciate it at first when I heard him call the police a gang. I thought that was disrespectful. I'm sorry, but it wasn't disrespectful, because that's what they amount to. Look, Supreme Court, there's a case. It's Barnes versus Fairfax. And if you take a look at that case, the Barnes case, the decision by the Supreme Court, let's do that here. Wake up. Wake up. Supreme Court decision in Barnes, lowercase v, period, Fairfax. Felix. Stop listening. Sorry, it is Barnes v. Felix. Felix the cat. That's how you'll remember that. All right. My apologies, because I just came across this case yesterday. Okay? This is a case involving excessive force. You know how they claim that an officer was in fear of his life so he could take the other person's life? Well, no. They can't use that excuse no more. Now, hold on. Where was the law that said that, pay attention, here are the totality of the circumstances of what the court said they must consider. They can't just say, well, the officer, he was in fear of his life and they failed to obey the officer's direct order. Well, the officer cannot use violence as his first option. For instance, you know how they'd be breaking people's windows when they refuse to roll their window down? Well, they can't do that anymore, because that is use of force, people. If a person simply refuses to roll their window down and they're just being pulled over for a traffic stop and the officer hasn't articulated a quote-unquote crime, then a traffic stop is not a crime. If he hasn't articulated a crime, then he has no justification to break the window. So now they have to do de-escalation and they have to explain themselves. Pay attention. That's what that case did. It changed. Now, one person did a video and talked about how it changed everything. Well, they're absolutely right. Because this articulable issue right here, notice what this is. It says reasonable under the Fourth Amendment, and the courts reject the moment of threat doctrine. You see, the courts keep coming up with all these stupid doctrines because they're lawyers. They keep coming up with all these stupid doctrines. Well, that doctrine never worked. Look at all the people who are dead at this very moment because the police used these stupid doctrines and the courts allowed them. Supreme Court in a unanimous decision. This was a 9-0 unanimous decision by the Supreme Court. Okay? If you really want to find out about it, look at this case right here, the dichotomy. Look at this one right here. This is the one, the totality of circumstances in the moment of decision. Okay? And they break it down to you. And how it applies to other things other than traffic stops. Okay? Pay attention. The courts did not address a separate question about whether or how an officer's own creation of a dangerous situation factors into reasonableness analysis. The courts below never confronted the issue, and thus the Supreme Court could not deal with the issue because the Supreme Court can only address issues that were brought before the lower court. And it was not the basis for the petition for certiorari. This is Judge Keegan saying that. She gave a unanimous opinion of the court. Keegan, whatever. No, her name is Kagan. Got to give Miss Kagan her credit. She's actually turned out to be all right. I am thoroughly surprised. Gregorchewicz, at least I hope I'm pronouncing his name correctly, I have a little bit of respect for her. I'm surprised. I'm letting you know I am surprised. And Kagan, I am surprised. Sotomayor, I'm a little wishy-washy on her. And the other young lady, Miss Jackson, I think her name. Sorry, Miss Jackson. Anyway, I don't know about her just yet. I haven't been able to gauge her opinion, her personality just yet. I'm waiting to see. She hasn't shown her true colors shining through. Okay? But just to let you all know. Okay, the court's decision today appropriately reaffirmed that the reasonableness of an officer's use of force must be evaluated based on the totality of circumstances. Kavanaugh, he hasn't been surprising me. He has been pretty much even killed. This is a constitutional issue. This had nothing to do with opinion. They're not giving their opinion. They're telling everyone that the officer never had that type of authority to be the law. You know how judges, not judges, but sheriffs and other officers would say they're the law? They are not the law. They never were. So now all of the courts have to go by this ruling. The officer's word is not good enough anymore. So you bring up the, pay attention, Barnes-Felix decision. That's all you have to do. Whenever you have a situation where a police officer uses anything known as force. See, the law says that they have to use reasonable force. That's where that reasonableness of an officer comes in. Reasonable force. Breaking your window almost causes injury to you because the glass gets shattered, get into your eye, and you lose your eye. Okay? It can cause damage to you. And it's unnecessary when all you're doing is sitting in the car. They're not in a rush. They have to do paperwork. You can also call for a supervisor. Now, here's the thing. If they ask you to get out of the car, and they do it repeatedly and you refuse, then you're not going to be able to hold groundwater unless you bring up your right to protest. Now, we're not going to talk about that here. But an unlawful arrest, you have the right to resist and you have the right to protest. But you have to bring up that right. You can't just say it. I got the right to protest. You can't just say it. You have to bring up that right. No, I think you're wrong. No, you need to give me a law. No, that is not a law. I don't care what you say. I need you to show me where that is law. That's a code. And codes are not law. Go ahead, read it. It even tells you that that's not law. The courts have said that's not law. So no, I am not required to go by the code. You are required to go by the code, but I am not obligated to follow the code. So you cannot apply the code to me. Now hold on now. To those of you who don't understand what I'm talking about, when you sign for your driver's license, you are waiving rights and stating on the record under contract that you will abide by the code. Now go back and read your driver's license document. You got to be careful, because it says that you will obey all traffic laws. Okay, if it used the word law, that's where you get them. Because you promised to obey the law. You didn't promise to obey no code. There's a difference between the law and the code. Now, if you don't understand that, now, see, that almost looks like the Harbor Freeway, but it's not. But it almost looks like the Harbor Freeway. But again, it's not. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, Harbor Freeway, downtown Los Angeles, but that looks like more of the area of the quote-unquote 105, but it ain't. Ladies and gentlemen, I digress with the Felix case, but some of you are not going to understand how important that decision was and how that changes everything. You see, now police officers have to rethink how they go about all of their use of force. Okay, what most people don't understand, police don't have the authority to order you to do anything unless you commit a crime. Then that's where their authority comes in. If you haven't committed a crime, they have no authority. Now don't go telling them, you ain't got no authority over me, because you sound like an idiot. And I mean literally, you sound like an idiot. I'm not doing this to have you challenging police officers. Look, those idiots, pay attention, have a job to do. So let them do their job. Stop interfering with them doing their job. They are trying to do their 9 to 5 and then go home. If they're violating your rights, document it. Don't speak to them. Don't argue with them. There's no need. The moment they violated your rights, they're looking for something to justify their use of force. Don't give them a reason. They're not Luther Vandross. Okay. Back to police officers, doctors, some nurses, but lawyers and judges. Ladies and gentlemen, they understand the law because they were trained. They know right from wrong because they are people performing a duty. They know right from wrong. A 5-year-old knows right from wrong. And certainly adults know right from wrong. Doesn't matter. You can't sugarcoat it. I know many of us end up doing wrong, especially when we become adults. But it doesn't matter. We still know right from wrong. So, doctors, lawyers, judges, police officers, they know they're violating people's rights or that their colleagues are violating people's rights. Do you guys know that they have a duty to speak up? It's called misprision of felony or misprision of felony. Depends on how you want to pronounce it. Misprision of felony is a simple law. That's where you get the fact that they have to report to a magistrate. All right. I just wanted to take the time to talk about that. Now, here at the very end, I'm going to talk about what we do over at the organizations I put together. It's been the case no matter what the organization was. Anybody who's ever used any one of the organizations I put together, you always get more than what you paid for. Even if you don't understand what you paid for. Lord have mercy. Sorry, there's a lot of people who don't understand the dynamics. So I did a video early this morning. Quite a few of you received federal credits. You were advised to get your taxes done so that you could have those credits listed on your transcripts. Now, I helped to create an organization called DataMass. I don't run DataMass. I just help create the organization and make sure the staff were trained on that issue and documentation of that issue primarily. Why? Because they had to follow the laws, so we had to go over those laws. Okay, now the people who are there, they understand this. They've been going over this for greater than 2 years. And they're still going over it. This is all they do. And every last one of their clients who has taken the time to do their taxes the correct way has had the indicator on their transcripts of these credits. Those who try to exaggerate and put the wrong information, well, you fee, fi, fo, thumb. You fi, fo, fee, fo, you know what I'm talking about. And some of them, just, oh Lord, they go contrary to the law. So they don't deserve anything. But those who have followed it, I just did a video last week showing you about one person who has thanked them because they've seen it reflected on their credit. Now, we are getting ready to show you how you can take those credits and their valuation and convert them to what's known as cash equivalent. I won't be doing it on video. No, because if I do it on video, too many people they'll take advantage of the information and they will just start throwing all kind of junk at the wall, and that doesn't work. Okay, we're not looking for people to take it and make something stupid out of it. We're looking for people to understand it, why you gets to do it. You feels me? Okay, so we are working that into, SACOM's going to do it for its Fourth Amendment people. Now, this is an additional charge. This is not part of the program. Now, hold on now. Just so you guys understand, everybody who's part of any of the SACOM, AmeriLegion, AMCF programs that deals with a debt, that we've been handling any portion of your debt, you have until the 22nd to turn in the letter so that we can send out the documents to the credit reporting agencies. So that will give you the right to sue those fools. Now, right now, give me a second. I got to be quick about this. Are you still thinking, what we did is we took all of the letters and we put them in here. Woohoo! And what I have to do is I have to get the list, because there's over 70 documents. So there are 70 documents, and tells me to open a report. Okay, so that's what we're doing now. Why are we doing this? For one reason and one reason only. We have to document that the client has had us mail these documents out. We have to document the summary of what the document included so that they can now go to court, because each failure to provide the information constitutes a violation of the Fair Credit Reporting Act and the Federal Fair Debt Collections Practices Act, the FDCPA and the FCRA, or the CRA. Ladies and gentlemen, you can take them to small claims court, and you can take them for 4 or 5 issues at a time and get paid. And that could be your job. Seriously, no joke. You just have to understand it. Go ahead and take what I just said and put it in the chat GPT and tell me if you can't. Now watch this. We're going to do it here. Wake up. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to send out this information, the summary and the report, to each and every one of our clients, whether it be against the FTC, the CFPB, the credit reporting agencies, and or the alleged creditor, and or the Federal Reserve Bank, and or the FDIC, each of them had an obligation and or a duty to respond to the specific requests regarding the law. CF, and none of them have responded as the law requires. Thus, according to the CRA, and the FDCPA, both federal and local, comma, these individuals are liable civically. Civilly. Civilly. Civil. Explain how this is possible. Comma, without listing names of any creditor and or any party and or any dollar amount other than the dollar amount they're liable for. Period. And how an individual could, if they chose, comma, go to small claims court and bring 3 to 5 issues at a time. And literally sue because they have proof that they've notified these agencies and they had a duty to respond and provide the information and they failed to do so. Stop listening. Now, I don't know what it's going to say because I ain't never did this with this system. Oh, this is the regular GPT. This ain't one of mine. Okay? So we're going to see if it's going to lie like a king of the jungle or like a rug, you know, or an invalid that's in the hospital and can't get out of bed. We're going to see if it's going to lie like that. Y'all hold on now. Then I got to get back to my work. So let me see. I'm going to pause y'all. See, every time I do that, that's what it do. Below is a compact, actionable explanation showing how an individual who has proof that agencies furnish or furnishers were notified but failed to answer can press civil liability and pursue 3 to 5 discrete issues in small claims court. I do not list any creditors and blah, 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 blah. Debt creditor must stop collecting and mail verification if the customer timely disputes the debt. Of course we do. Every time they make a new issue of it, we dispute the debt. Customers reporting to the CRA must reinvestigate consumer dispute and notify the consumer of the results within these days. They have not done so. Civil remedies allows you to sue from $100 to $1,000. How this becomes viable in small claims courts step by step. This is what we're doing for our clients. They didn't ask for this. This was not even part of the agreement at first. Sorry, I just thought of this 2 weeks ago. And I decided to give it to our clients. Now, we're paying for all the mailing. This was not part of the original agreement. We're adding this. We're not charging our clients extra for this. But I can't do the same thing with the tax thing. That's different. This right here, this is coming out of my pocket, not out of the company's pocket. So pay attention. We're doing this for our clients. That's why we gave them until the 22nd to turn in that letter. If they don't turn in that letter, they will not be a part of this program. Doesn't matter what they say. I don't care how grandma was in the hospital or how grandpa broke his knee, or I don't care if they were on vacation visiting the Samu, not Samoan, Samu Islands, way over on the other side of Venus, and they didn't have any reception, and they were stranded because they got, it doesn't matter what the excuse is. They have until the 22nd, 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. If it's not received by then they will not be part of this right here. This is in addition. This is not something that was part of the original agreement between us and our clients. So this is not a right. This is a privilege for those who want to avail themselves of it and are part of one of our debt programs. And you don't have to write in and ask if you're part of that program, because everybody who's part of that program have received notification. So if you haven't received a notification, that means you're not part of the program. Ain't no need of worrying. Okay? That's how simple that is. Woohoo! And every 3 to 5 claims, and you're going to have at least 75 different separate claims, because there were at least 75 letters that was mailed out. We spent over $70,000 in mailings. Mail is not cheap. On average, we spend upwards from $2.28 per envelope to the $7.80 per envelope, because some of our envelopes are too thick. So we have to send it out priority. And then, since the price has gone up, $9.80. Hey, mail ain't no joke. So we understand how many of you don't like mailing things out. Now, you will have to mail out the power of attorney agreement, limited power of attorney, which explains the agreement. It doesn't amend anything. It just lets them know, hey, y'all had a power of attorney, and y'all didn't communicate with my power of attorney. Now you violated my rights. It's because it's your power of attorney. It doesn't belong to them. They don't get to tell you how to use your power. They don't have no authority. It doesn't matter what their policies are. You are the client. They are the custodian. They don't get to set the stage. They don't get to set the standard. They don't get to set the rules. They are custodians. They are agents. Agents cannot tell the principal what to do. Your power company is an agent. Your mortgage company is an agent. They're custodians. They are not principals. They only pretending to be principals. Let's do this. This is the last thing. Did you know that a power company that handles the servicing of my electric are custodians or agents, but they're not principals? And did you know that mortgagers who handled the receipt of a promissory note and deposited it into an account, sometimes called the restricted collateral account, are not lenders and or creditors, but they are agents and or intermediaries and not principals? And if they are not principals, then they are not in any position under law to dictate to the principal how they're going to manage their account or what they can and cannot do with their account as a matter of law. Stop listening. And I just want you all to pay attention to the answer. Because until I said that, some of you knew it, but you didn't know it. But now you better know it because you can better think about it. See how I said now you better know it, and now you better think about it without saying you better know this and you better think about it? Okay. Pay attention. Who's in control? They are not. They are not, they are not, they are not. They couldn't be in control last week. I need y'all to hold on for 1 second. All right, ladies and gentlemen, the first thing I did was I pulled up an entire summary of everything that's been sent. I want you to pay attention. This is page 1. Now, I'm not going to go slow because it ain't none of y'all business, but I'm going to go all the way down to the bottom. I want you to understand. What page is this? Come on, tell me what page. That's 16 pages of everything that we sent out, the laws that are governing the document and so forth. Hey, I do like the fact that it did that. Okay? Even gives us a copy of our PDF. Okay? Well, this is the overview of the Fair Debt Collections Practices